It's the middle of August in 1987. The box office is loaded with great 80s movies, but not so many big name 80s stars. The list of music in the top 40 is the opposite. It might be the biggest collection of superstars we'll ever see. And with TV shows stuck in reruns, I'm bringing back an old segment, Popular Cars of the Year. Grab yourself a cup of coffee or maybe a couple of beers and get comfortable. Hit the subscribe button and the like button. Don't forget the bell and get ready. This Week in the 80s starts now. The summer of 87 is a little bit different than most other summers that we've seen. There aren't that many sequels. In fact, there's only one that's in a franchise. The rest of these are all brand new ideas. The big names aren't around, but there are a lot of smaller names who eventually will be big names or used to be big names and no longer are. You'll see what I mean in just a minute. Let's start at number 15, Back to the Beach. Back to the Beach stars Annette Funicello and Frankie Avalon. They really wanted to get this one right. They had so many people writing this movie that they spent $2 million alone just on writers' fees. The movie did okay in the theaters. At this point, it's at number 15. It was Funicello's last acting role in the movies. During the filming, she realized that she had MS. I remember when this came out, I thought to myself, old people at the beach, who wants to see that? Well, here's a reality check for you. Funicello was 45 and Frankie Avalon was 47. At number 12, we had Summer School. Mark Harmon playing Mr. Shoop, had Kirstie Alley as well, had a young Courtney Thorne Smith, pretty decent cast of people. This was directed by Rob Reiner's dad, Carl Reiner, and the music, pure 80s on this one. How about Oingo Boingo's Danny Elfman? He goes on to do a lot of other things as well. At 11, we had Disorderlies, the screwball comedy that everybody wanted. The Fat Boys are the stars, and those guys are a lot of fun. Now, from the trailer, it says, if the Three Stooges crack you up, the Fat Boys will fracture you. It's one of those things you always have to watch out with when you're listening to promotions. If they're referencing something else to pump this one up, the one you're about to see probably isn't very good. Disorderlies with the Fat Boys certainly isn't very good at all, but it's absolutely worth watching because the Fat Boys are funny as hell. Speaking of referencing one movie to pump another one up, at number 10, we had Masters of the Universe. They kept saying that this was going to be the Star Wars of the 80s. You knew that was bad news just to start that way. It definitely was not the Star Wars of the 80s, unless the Star Wars of the 80s was a complete and total flop. I've seen this movie a couple of times. Frank Langella as Skeletor is awesome. Dolph Lundgren as He-Man is ridiculous. The special effects in this are terrible. Beginning to end, it's a bad movie, so you have to see it. It's absolutely worth it. Canon Films was behind the Masters of the Universe, also Superman 4, also Life Force. Those three movies bombing as bad as they did caused the closure of Canon Films. That led to the canceling of Masters of the Universe Part 2, Cyborg. They already had the script written, they had the sets and the costumes made, so they repurposed it all, rewrote the script a bit, canceled Masters of the Universe Part 2, called the movie Cyborg, and that's where you got Jean-Claude Van Damme in 1989. At number 9, we have Robocop. Some people consider this one of the greatest movies of all time. I don't know if I'd go that far, but it's enjoyable. I'd buy that for $1. The person you don't want to ask about whether or not it's fantastic is Peter Weller. The star of this movie refuses to talk about it anymore. He says he said all he needs to say. He wants to talk about other things. I'd rather talk about Robocop. Peter Weller doesn't care what I want, though. At number 8, we have The Lost Boys. Absolutely my favorite vampire movie. Jason Patric, Kiefer Sutherland, the Coreys. Now, originally, this was a Richard Donner film, and it was a lot lighter. It was more like The Goonies. It was more fun and less dark. The Frog Brothers were supposed to be a couple of fat little 8-year-olds. Then Richard Donner committed to other projects, so Jeffrey Boehm stepped in and made everybody older, darker, sexier. Many credit this movie for taking vampires to a whole different level in Hollywood. They weren't creepy old men anymore. Now they're young, they're wild, they're sexy, and they're kicking ass. The story of Richie Valens is at number 7. The Valenzuela family supported the project, so it was easy to get all the information correct. Richie's mom and his brother, Bob, you know Bob, Richie, that Bob, were both on the set to make sure the characters were portrayed properly. The music on the soundtrack isn't 80s, but it's really good music anyway. Los Lobos does the title track. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Brian Setzer's on this. Yeah, you know, the Stray Cats guy, he's on here. Marshall Crenshaw, Bo Diddley. Oh, you don't know Diddley. If you get that joke, tell me. They're all on the soundtrack. This was Lou Diamond Phillips' breakout role. Previous roles included Punk Number 1, Sidewalk Thug, and Terrorist. Bond. James Bond is at number 6. I know, I do that every time, and I'm going to continue doing it every time because it makes me laugh. When they were getting ready to film The Living Daylights, they had to pick their Bond. See if you can follow me on this one. They offer the role to Pierce Brosnan. He's on Remington Steele at the time. It was canceled because ratings were really bad. So Brosnan gets announced as the new Bond. Interest in Remington Steele picks back up. NBC still has him under contract, so they decide they're going to invoke a clause in the contract and they're going to get him back on the show. So now Brosnan is back being Remington Steele. Well, they don't want him as James Bond if he's Remington Steele, so he gets dropped. They hire Timothy Dalton instead. Timothy Dalton is now Bond. Brosnan's not Bond. People aren't interested in Remington Steele anymore because Brosnan's not Bond. 5 shows into the new season for Remington Steele, they cancel it because people aren't watching it anymore. Timothy Dalton plays Bond for this one and the next one, but they go back to Pierce Brosnan and they get him for the following 4. The Living Daylights is a very typical James Bond movie. It doesn't stand out as the best. It's not the worst. If you're a Bond fan, you're a Living Daylights fan too. At number 5, we have No Way Out. Remember at the beginning, I told you we didn't have those big Hollywood stars? Well, this one's got Kevin Costner in it. But you know, in 1987, Kevin Costner wasn't a big star yet. He had just done The Untouchables, and that was a good movie. But he wasn't any sort of A-lister. He was just the actor in that one, had done a few other small things. No Way Out made him a superstar. It also had Gene Hackman in it. Number 4 was Dirty Dancing. Critics hated this movie, but the people loved it. Isn't that how it always goes? When they were casting this, they already had Jennifer Grey on board. She's a dancer, and they had a dancing movie. They wanted to get another dancer to play the male lead. Patrick Swayze had a background in ballet, so why not pick him? Well, Jennifer Grey had worked with Patrick Swayze in Red Dawn, and they didn't get along very well. They danced once, she changed her mind, the movie went to the top, nobody put baby in the corner. At number 3, we've got Can't Buy Me Love. I can't tell you exactly why this is one of my favorite 80s movies. It just is. It's not the funniest one. It doesn't have the best characters. It certainly doesn't have the best writing or very many one-liners. It's just a good movie. Originally, it was called Boy Rents Girl. Terrible name that was. They got the song rights from the Beatles, changed it to Can't Buy Me Love. At number 2, we have Born in East LA. This is the first time Cheech acts without Chong. Frank Price had the idea to split them up, thinking that he could make Cheech a star on his own. The movie did very well, but Frank Price didn't get a chance to bask in that glory. He got fired before this movie was a hit because he also was the brains behind giving the green light to Howard the Duck. At number 1 this week, we had Stakeout, your typical 80s buddy cop movie. The film debuted at number 1 at the box office. It went on to gross $65 million domestically and is the 8th highest grossing film of the year. This is the one that almost made Emilio a superstar. What made him a superstar? His next movie, Young Guns, as Billy the Kid. When I took a look at the charts this week, I was blown away. The number of big time names that we had on the radio at this time in August of 1987 is unbelievable. I always tell you, think about how it would be driving down the road. You got your friends in the car, the windows are all rolled down, the music is cranked up. It's August, so the windows are rolled down because it's not like we had air conditioning. And you're just singing along to these songs, having a good time. The DJ comes on, you hope the next song is going to be good. This week, it seems like you probably could have listened to the radio for hours before you heard a song you didn't even like. Let's run down the list and see what we had. At number 40 on the list, we had Smokey Robinson with One Heartbeat. This was Smokey's last top 40 hit as a solo act. More on Smokey a little bit later. At number 39, we've got LL Cool J with I Need Love. This was often referred to as the first commercially successful rap ballad. LL Cool J, that stands for Ladies Love Cool James. That's a cool nickname, man. At number 38, we had Who Found Who by Jelly Bean. You might not know a lot of Jelly Bean's own music, but you certainly know his work. He's remixed various artists, including, get this list, Paul McCartney, Michael Jackson, Billy Joel, David Bowie, Sting, Talking Heads, Denise Williams, Elvis Costello, Fleetwood Mac, the Pointer Sisters, and ZZ Top. So while you might not know who he is, you certainly know what he does. Number 37, Jam Tonight by Freddie Jackson. This is about as high as Freddie Jackson's going to get on this chart, but this song hit number 1 on the R&B chart. The Fat Boys keep us entertained at number 36, but it's not them. It's Bananarama with I Heard a Rumor. That's from the Disorderlies soundtrack. Number 35 is Jonathan Butler with Lies. This song ended up as number 11 on the adult contemporary charts. Adult contemporary is basically old people music. But now we're the old people. So is adult contemporary 80s music now? In 1969, a band named Steam had a song called Kiss 'Em Goodbye. You know how it goes. Na 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 na, hey, 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 kiss 'em goodbye. Well, in 1987, there's an a cappella version of that put out by the Nylons. It's at number 34 this week. Number 33 is Mary's Prayer by Danny Wilson. I didn't know this song. I had to look it up. It's a big hit in the UK. In the US, it got as high as number 23 on this chart. 32, Touch of Grey by the Grateful Dead. This was my introduction to the Grateful Dead. My cousins didn't listen to it. My older brother didn't listen to it. It certainly wasn't on the radio. So when would I ever hear the Dead? Well, they put out Touch of Grey, and they actually hit the Billboard charts. This is the only top 40 hit for the Dead. It peaked at number 9. 31 is Since You've Been Gone by the Outfields. Not one of their big hits, but it's an all right tune. The video is more popular than the song is. It was shot at Beckton Gasworks outside of London. When you watch the video, you can see all the busted out buildings. The buildings had recently been damaged, not by nature or war, but by Hollywood. They shot the Battle of Way scene here in Full Metal Jacket earlier this year, and a lot of explosions went off, blowing those holes in those buildings. At number 30, we get the Fat Boys again. These guys were killing it in 1987. The Fat Boys and the Beach Boys with Wipeout. This is their only top 40 hit. The video starts out with Hector Camacho and Ray Mancini and ends up with the Fat Boys at the beach while the Beach Boys are in New York City. It's creative. It's nothing that you want to watch a few times or more, but you might sing along with it anyway. Wipeout. 29 is I'd Still Say Yes by Climax. They had a few hits. This was the last time they got in the top 100. 28, Whitney Houston with I Want to Dance with Somebody Who Loves Me. Another example of critics being critics. The critics hated this song. They said it's too close to How Will I Know and too close to Girls Just Want to Have Fun. The end result? It hit number 1 in 18 countries, including the US, making it the 4th number 1 hit in a row for Whitney Houston. At 27, we've got the Red Rocker, Sammy Hagar with Give to Live. That's about all I have to say about this song. I'm going to move on. 26 is Whitesnake with Here I Go Again. This is the re-release of this song. They originally put it out in their 1982 album, Saints and Sinners. They re-recorded it, re-released it, and boom, it's up to number 1 on the charts. Everybody loves that song. 25, Whitney Houston, Didn't We Almost Have It All? This one also hit number 1 this year. It's her 5th number 1 in a row. 24, When Smokey Sings by ABC. This is a tribute to Smokey Robinson, who, as I mentioned earlier, is also on this chart. They asked Smokey about the song. He said, hey, it's flattery. I like it. At number 23, we've got Huey Lewis and the News with Doing It All for My Baby. This is the 5th top 10 hit from that album. That's really surprising to me. When I think about Huey Lewis, I think about the sports album. I think about I Want a New Drug. I always thought the sports album was the big deal, and the 4 album kind of fell off and lost its steam. But Jacob's Ladder, Stuck With You, Hip to Be Square, I Know What I Like, and this one, Doing It All for My Baby, say otherwise. Number 22. Number 22, we've got Living in a Box. That's everything. That's the whole thing. The song is called Living in a Box. The band is called Living in a Box. The album is Living in a Box. Move along. 21, Janet Jackson, The Pleasure Principle. This is the only song that Janet Jackson released officially in the 80s and 90s that missed the top 10. It's still a pretty good song. At number 20, we've got Dan Hill with Vonda Shepard and Can't We Try. Super soft song that I just, listen, I know all the words to it. I know. It was on the radio. What am I going to do? It was on the radio all the time. It's Dan Hill's second big hit. The first one, Sometimes When We Touch, was his biggest hit. That got all the way to number 3 in 1978. Sometimes When We Touch, I know all those words too. Wish I didn't, though. At number 19, we've got Fleetwood Mac with 7 Wonders. Originally, Stevie Nicks didn't receive the lyric sheet and just received the demo. She misheard some of the lyrics, but then liked the way she misheard the lyrics and liked the way it sounded. So they left it that way. Because they left her changes in it, they gave her credit for writing part of the song, and she earned a writer's credit and a few bucks later. Number 18 is Robbie Neville with What's It To Ya? That's WOT' it to YA. You know, I'm not a fan of Robbie Neville. That's no secret. The one cool thing about this tune is the harmonica. That's Judd Lander playing the harmonica. You might recognize his style of play. You hear it also on Karma Chameleon. 17, Ann and Nancy Wilson, Heart with Alone. This song doesn't belong to Ann and Nancy. It's a cover song. It was originally recorded by the people who wrote it in 1983 as a band called I-10. Nobody cared. Then John Stamos and Valerie Stevenson did it on a soundtrack for a short-lived TV show called Dreams. Nothing again. Then Heart put it at number 1 for 3 weeks. Tell me about the power of Ann and Nancy Wilson's voices. Number 16, I Can't Stop Loving You, Michael Jackson with Seda Garrett. At number 15, Love Power, Dionne Warwick and Jeffrey Osborne. This one reached number 1 on the adult contemporary track. Again, with the adult contemporary stuff, it's like soft, easy listening dentist music. You know, I was at the thrift store today and Love Bites by Def Leppard was playing. I got your adult contemporary right there. Number 14, It's Not Over Till It's Over by Starship. It was over a long time ago, Starship, right after you released Knee Deep in the Hoopla. Number 13, Back in the High Life Again by Steve Winwood. Steve Winwood has a really distinctive voice. It's that kind of high tenor. It carries the song. But you might be searching your musical memory for that voice in the background doing the backing vocals. It sounds familiar, but you can't place it. I'll help you out. It's James Taylor. We'll go back to the soundtracks for number 12. It's Bob Seger with Shakedown. That's Beverly Hills Cop 2 right there. This was Bob Seger's only number 1 hit. This week, it's at number 12. At number 11, we have The Whispers with Rock Steady. Here's the chorus if you don't know it. And we begin to rock steady, steady rocking all night long. And we begin to rock steady, rock until the break of dawn. Okay. Gloria Estefan and the Miami Sound Machine with Rhythm Is Gonna Get You at number 10. In 2018, it was selected for preservation in the National Recording Registry by the Library of Congress for being culturally and historically significant. At number 9, we have the debut of Debbie Gibson with Only in My Dreams. You want to have some fun? Go find a Debbie Gibson fan and let them know that Tiffany was a better artist. Or find a Tiffany fan and go brag about how awesome Debbie Gibson was. Fans of Debbie Gibson or Tiffany aren't fans of Debbie Gibson and Tiffany, and they'll fight to the death about it. At number 8, Cross My Broken Heart by the Jets. This is also with Bob Seger's Shakedown on the soundtrack. There's another one on it as well, and that's coming up in just a few spots. Richard Marx is at number 7 with Don't Mean Nothing. This is a heavy guitar-driven song. It's got Joe Walsh from the Eagles on the slide guitar. The Power of Advertisement took over the charts and gave us the number 6 hit this week to Pow's Heart and Soul. It was released in England and nobody cared. In the US, some people liked it, but it wasn't that big of a hit. Pepe Jeans thought it was great and put it in one of their commercials. Next thing you know, it blows up, it's back in the charts in England, and it goes all the way to number 4 here in the US. The Power of Advertising. Speaking of the power of advertising, do you like my cool Doc Brown shirt? If you do, you can get it at 80stees.com. They got 1,000 cool shirts. This is one of them. Number 5, La Bamba. This is by Los Lobos. Obviously, the original version was by Richie Valens. That got to number 22 on the charts. This Los Lobos version ran all the way up to number 1. Because Richie Valens had the original arrangement, he got credited with the number 1 song too. Number 4, Luca by Suzanne Vega. It's a serious song about a serious subject. Look, don't abuse kids. Don't abuse people. Don't abuse pets. Don't abuse anybody or anything. Just be a good person. It's not that hard. Luca at number 4, Suzanne Vega. Good song. Number 3, Pure Controversy. I Want Your Sex by George Michael. This is on the Beverly Hills Cop 2 soundtrack, also giving them 3 in the top 12. Back off the charts, number 70, Be There by the Pointer Sisters is also on this soundtrack. That's a hell of a soundtrack. 4 songs in the top 100. Madonna's at number 2 with Who's That Girl? Yeah, I know. The movie was terrible. Everybody knows the movie was terrible. The song, however, was pretty good. Madonna shows us that she's a fantastic musician despite the fact that she can't act. Good thing she gets paid to sing. Number 1 this week, from the Joshua Tree, I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For by U2. It's not really a U2 show, so I'm not going to tell you everything I know. They are my favorite band of all time. I've seen them live 17 times. The first time on this tour. In fact, if we're talking about August of 1987, about a month from now, I'm going to see them live at Foxborough. This was the second song released from the Joshua Tree. The first one was With or Without You. The second song released was supposed to be Red Hill Mining Town. If you're not a U2 fan, you don't know it. It's the 6th song off the Joshua Tree, or the first song on the second side of the tape, or record if you prefer. It turned out that the high notes were a bit difficult for Bono to hit, and he was having a hard time singing it in rehearsals before the tour. They couldn't release the song and then not play the song on the tour. So they scrapped Red Hill Mining Town and went with I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For instead. Turned out to be a pretty good idea. Normally at this time, I'd be doing television. There's nothing going on. It's the middle of the summer in 1987. There's only a bunch of reruns on. So let's talk about something else. Let's do cars. How about the top 10 most popular cars of 1987? As it is every year, the Ford F-150 was the most sold vehicle in the US. So let's just scrap the trucks and focus only on the cars and see what we had. Number 10 on the list for $8,914, the Honda Civic. Number 9, $8,558 will get you a Ford Tempo. At number 8, if you've got $8,199, you can get yourself a brand new Nissan Sentra. The number 7 most sold car in 1987 was a new entry. This is a new car company giving us a new little subcompact. It was the Hyundai Excel, and you can have one for $5,520. I'm looking through this list of cars, and they're lame. I know that they're not supposed to be the coolest cars out there because cool cars cost more money. I'll talk about that in a minute. But look at these pictures of these cars. They're as boring as the wood paneling you had in your basement and probably your living room. Number 6, the Oldsmobile Sierra. $11,354 puts a new Olds in your driveway. Number 5 was about as popular in my high school parking lot as any car out there. For $7,995, a brand new Chevy Cavalier is yours. Chevy hung on to the 4 spot as well. The Celebrity, which is basically looks just like the old Sierra. It's $10,823 later, and you got a Celebrity in your driveway. Not that kind of celebrity, though. This car isn't signing any autographs. It gets a bit expensive at number 3, but this car is probably still on the road now. It's the Honda Accord for $13,414. I had an 89 Honda. It had 190,000 miles on it, and I put 100,000 extra on it too. At number 2, we had the ultimate mom car, the Ford Taurus. Brand new will cost you $12,500. The number 1 car sold in 1987. There were so many of them on the road and in your high school parking lot. These were everywhere. For $6,895, you could have had one too. Cool cars cost extra money. These ones didn't make the top 10 list, but they were on the road, and every time you saw one, you thought, man, I wish I was driving one of those instead of my Ford Escort. Maybe you wished you were driving the Chevy Corvette. $28,989. I bet you do wish you had a couple of them. Maybe you wish you had $14,958 to get yourself a brand new rotary engine Mazda RX-7. Those rotary engines were garbage. You want that tiny little sports car, the one that can fit in the back of your buddy's F-150? The Toyota MR2 for $12,858 could have been yours. One of my favorite cars on the list, the 1987 Nissan 300ZX. $18,694. It was worth every penny. Those cars were awesome. The Mustangs in 1987 were pretty cool looking. They weren't like those crappy ones from the late 70s or the ones that they came out in the mid 2000s. This was the Fox body that originated the term 5.0 from the 5.0 liter engine. Yours for only $11,835. One of the great rules of promotion. If you have to get Keith or Sutherland, Jason Patrick, both the Coreys. Everybody has their favorite vampire movie. Mine's The Lost Boys, and that's at number 8 now. Right now, go to the movies and see it. Get yourself a cup of coffee or a cup. I can't imagine driving down the radio. Jelly beans know. What do jelly beans know? They know Easter and how to get eaten. The Fat Boys keep us entertained at number 35. We're on number 36. Good thing I can count. In 1969, a band named Steam called you on the phone and asked how you doing. What am I talking about? 26's Whitesnake with You Know It. I just don't know it. The hell's the name of that song? Oh, here I go again. I'm so stupid. The Sports album is just, that's everything. The Sports album is just, that's everything. Again, with the adult contemporary track, this is like Dentist Music Office. Gloria Estefan and the Miami Sound Machine. Rhythm is Gonna Get You by I just said who it was by. At number 8, we had Cross My Broken Hearts by the Jets. All my hearts, all 7 or 8 of them. Just keep crossing them. That's going to do it for me for This Week in the 80s, August of 1987. Thanks so much for sticking around. Thanks for watching this show. Make sure you click the subscribe button, the like button. Leave me a comment and tell me what you liked, what you didn't like, what I got right, and what I got wrong. The list of all those should be pretty long. I'll see you next week for more This Week in the 80s.